So good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Innovation Partners Theater. This morning, I have the pleasure of hosting these sessions. My name is Sharon Jobity. I'm the Vice President of Human Resources with the Ontario Centres of Excellence. And today's Innovation Partners are actually agencies or departments with the provincial or federal government, or have received funding from the provincial or federal government. And together they offer innovators and entrepreneurs a variety of programs, advice, and opportunities in which to help them develop their research and their business. So our next presenter this morning is Manfred Hubert. Manfred is the Director, Ontario, at the National Research Council Industrial Research Assistance Program. This organization helps SMEs grow by providing funding for product development and advisory services. So I'm sure Manny will have some time for questions after his presentation, so welcome, Manny.
Good morning. Thank you very much. I don't think I have to make my presentation now. You just said most of what I want to say. Oops. Anyways, I'm speaking about the Industrial Research Assistance Program, known as IRAP. And IRAP is a program of the National Research Council of Canada. And of course, maybe it's been 2 years, I don't know. They celebrated their 100th anniversary and of innovation and various things you can see by this slide. But I'm not going to talk about NRC because NRC, again, is being reorganized. And NRC has several business lines that you can see. They have strategic research, they have advisory services and facilities that you can use. They have they take care of your science infrastructure like the telescope, and they have the industrial research assistance programs, which is so enough about that. But IRAP's mission and vision really is their mandate is to stimulate wealth creation in Canada through innovation. Their mission is to accelerate the growth of small and medium-sized enterprises by providing them with a comprehensive suite of innovative services and funding. I think the key part there is to try and accelerate the growth. And the vision is to be the most impactful program of its kind in the world, where Canadian firms go first to transform their ideas to commercial success. Again, we want to transform ideas into commercial successes. Well, where is IRAP? Well, IRAP is more or less all over the place. We have ITAs, or we have offices all throughout Canada and all regions. There's really 5 separate regions of IRAP, but what it really means is it's a national program, but it's delivered locally. Okay, so you're not dealing just with Ottawa or some central agency, you're dealing with people that are around the corner from you in most cases. So it's been around for a number of years, over 50 years. It's present in all provinces, I said. We have 120 locations. We serve 11,000 clients per year, and we cover all sectors. We fund approximately 3,000. We have a field staff of 255 ITAs, and I'll talk a little bit more about the ITAs, and we have a number of partner organizations that we work with. So we look at IRAP and what is really the IRAP Advantage, and the IRAP Advantage is really the ITAs, Industrial Technology Advisors. So we're different, so you don't apply it. You really work with an industrial technology advisor. You develop a trusting relationship with that individual. He's local, he's around the corner from you. You can call him, he can come and visit your work. And he's attached through a network with other ITAs. So if you have some issue, perhaps, one email can gather 30, 40 answers within 24 hours to come and give some ideas to you. And we invest in, we call it the smart money. What is the most what's the pressing need of the company? If it's a development, if it's looking at some intellectual property you have that you want to patent, or whatever it is, whatever is the most pressing problem, we can put some funding into that to help you with it. So there's sort of the business model, as I say, we have. We have on one side, we're trying to elevate companies from one position to another position to help them grow. We have some vehicles to help through funding, which you see on the left there, or maybe, I don't know what side it is. So we have a number of programs, which we call IRAP, regular IRAP programs. We have international, we have youth, we have now Youth Green, and we have CAPE, and I'll explain these a little bit more in detail. On the other side is more the softer things that we do. They're not necessarily funded, but we provide advisory services and technology expertise, competitive intelligence, linkages, business advice, and of course we have the concierge service now, which is also able to help you, and I'll explain that a little bit more later. So clients, well, we cover, I said, all industry sectors. You can see that it looks like we cover more ICT, but there is more ICT type of companies in Canada now, but we do cover the whole spectrum. In terms of funded firms, these are sort of national numbers here. You can see it really sort of follows a curve of how companies are in Canada. We have a lot of companies in the 1 to 10 employees, and then they start to go down. Unfortunately, so our real aim would be to try and change this curve to have more companies in the probably to 100 to 300 employees, the more medium size. So really, we're serving mainly SME. Ontario, it's a little different. I would say in Ontario, our sweet spot is probably companies between 11 and 50 employees. So I mentioned our industrial technology advisors as being our secret sauce, I guess, and most of them are people who have had private sector experience, and the people that we hire have to have had recent private sector experience within the last 5 years. Typically, they're later in career, mostly 45 years old and higher, maybe. Some get as old as I am. They've been senior managers or entrepreneurs in some cases, and in some cases even very successful entrepreneurs. They have an engineering, science background, and presently 40% of the people within IRAP are really new. So we've had a lot of retirements and a lot of refreshment people, and a lot of those people have strong business background. So from our advisory services, these are sort of the soft part of IRAP, but we become very trusted by the CEOs and C2Os of companies. We give them technical and business advice. We refer them to other programs. Linkages and networking to appropriate resources, and strategic intelligence we can provide for them. Now we can fund things like marketing studies or even competitive analysis. So our funding programs is outlined, as I mentioned before. So our core program, we assist SMEs with their R&D projects with the intention and potential to grow the firm. And now we fund the labor component of these projects, okay? So it's really the cost of your skilled labor that you put onto the project, and we cover part of it. And we don't cover the entire cost of the project or the entire cost of the labor, but up to 80%. Depending, and if it's subcontract out, it's up to 50%. Now we also have a program where we provide some funding to non-profit organizations who will perform or who can do services that are useful for SMEs or smaller SMEs, which maybe are complementary to what we normally can provide. We have the youth employment program. This is helping graduates or recent graduates to get more or less their first job. So we can subsidize that. If a company hires that individual for 6 months or more, then we can contribute funding to that. Unfortunately, the youth employment program this year in Ontario is really all tapped out. We have another program, which is a green youth employment program. This is an intern program whereby if you hire a student or somebody under the age of 30, over 16, under the age of 30, who will perform either if you're a green enterprise or if he does some work which can make a contribution which could be construed as an environmental contribution, then we also provide some funding for that. It's $10,000 for the 3 months. We also manage the Canada Accelerator and Incubator Program, which provides funding to best-in-class accelerators and incubators to help early-stage companies. We run the concierge service, which helps SMEs in navigating the many available innovation support programs available and select the best options to help SMEs. We are now involved with the Canadian International Innovation Program. So this supports SMEs' collaboration with international partners in China, Brazil, India, and Korea. We also support Eureka and Eurostars, which again is SME collaboration with European partners. And we also co-manage the CAN Export program, which helps with GAC, which helps companies looking for new export regions, and they provide funding for that. So you can see where IRAP is sort of in the innovation cycle. In a sense, we're in the sort of pre-commercialization stage, usually post the research stage, prototyping area. And this just outlines more or less if your basic eligibility, how do we fund, or what do we fund, and how do we fund? We fund for-profit SME incorporated in Canada, 500 and few employees. These companies need to have the potential and willingness to grow through innovation. We normally do a business analysis and a project analysis. And the business analysis looks at what's the opportunity, do you have the management capability potential to achieve the expected outcomes, do you have the financial resources to bring it forward to commercialization, and do you have any experience, or can you commercialize? The project, does the project have plan and challenges? Do they have the R&D capacity to achieve success? And the potential impact of the project on the firm and benefits to Canada. So this is just a slide which is pretty busy and shows you more or less the whole scope of things of where you can come in, how we help, how you benefit, and hopefully that you grow. Now, people may have heard the latest budget. So the latest budget confirmed that IRAP will get an increase in funding of $100 million this fiscal, $150 million for the next 3 years. This is nationally. Ontario gets about 35% of this. Part of the increased funding is to be used to fund large projects with IRAP contributions between $1 and $10 million. This is the aim from the budget, but things have not been worked out where, all of this has to be run through Treasury Board. At present, the cap on funding is that we will fund projects up to $1 million per fiscal year. That will probably change next year. But we don't know the procedure yet of how it's going to change and what it will be. For $3 to $5 million projects, it could go to an intermediary committee of some kind. So this is all in transition at the moment. IRAP will continue to support nonprofit organizations, which I mentioned before, through our contributions organizations this fiscal year. But the intent of ISED is to have these taken over by regional development agencies moving forward. Some of the new funding will be used to increase and hire more ITAs across the country. The concierge services is supposed to be taken over by ISED. Again, it's in transition, and this year I think concierge will work just as it has been in the past few years. And NRC received money to continue the voucher program for interactions between SME and NRC. So as we are part of NRC, we will now be a gateway to help companies if they want to work directly with NRC and some of the research groups or some of the resources that are available there. It'll basically be money, or in other words, work that can be done at a lower cost. So I mentioned Concierge. Concierge helps SMEs grow their business through customized guidance, advice, referrals to the most relevant program and services. It's very useful. They keep track of all of the different programs. So if you're not a fit for IRAP, there may be other programs that you can fit into. And so please contact Concierge. We also work with other government programs. We basically can do proposal assessments, program design, program management, full program delivery as well. So these are, for instance, the Built in Canada program, BCIP. We basically manage that program for the other department of government. We have the accelerated growth services. So somebody was just before me from EDC. So the accelerated growth are really, we're looking for companies that have and are growing rapidly. They're at least a revenue of $3 to $5 million. And we're bringing to them, they're nominated by various organizations, but we bring all the different government organizations together at the table to look at the company and see what their needs are, not just say an R&D or, for instance, that part, but it could be for export and all that. So all the organizations develop a plan of how to move that company together, and then they can get something from BDC, EDC, IRAP, and there are other provincial organizations coming to the table as well. So we hope that this will help the company move forward and accelerate their growth. Again, the last part here is that we are now connected to clients, to the global value chain through our sector teams, which I'll explain in just a moment. And we also have new tools to support international growth through the other programs such as CAN Exports, such as our international innovation programs. And we do have sector teams within IRAP. The idea behind sector teams, and you can see them, we have them in clean tech, construction, ICT, manufacturing, biomedical, bioproducts, aerospace, and mining. And this is really internally a group of ITAs that keep abreast of the technology, become basically sort of technical expertise in those areas, but at the same time, they're trying to connect small SMEs. They establish relationships with multinational corporations who are looking for solutions to problems or looking for new suppliers, and therefore they try and use Canadian companies to bring them to the attention of the multinationals and therefore enter their supply chain. So you can see this pictorially here. So, it's all really, again, the SMEs and through the sector teams work with the M&Es. Thank you very much for your attention. The most important part, I should say, is that if you want to find out more, call that number, the 1887. That's a number which will link you into the IRAP chain. Once you enter there, you'll be asked where you're located. Then you'll be given an ITA or be attached to the concierge service, in which then you can navigate IRAP better. Thank you very much. I can take questions, I guess, a couple of them.
If somebody is applied to the BCIP program, are they automatically sort of enrolled in your system?
No, it's a separate application. Okay, so I would still contact IRAP directly. Okay.
There seems to be cross-federal government integration with customs processes, etc. What are your touch points with the provinces, since there seems to be regional innovation center within provinces?
Yes, and I think there's a lot of, I think the AGS services now has provincial partners as well, okay? So in terms of IRAP itself, that we're starting to integrate and work more closely with provincial organizations. So for instance, OCE, they're business development managers. Many of our teams have business development managers from OCEs at our team meetings to regulars. We're developing sort of, we do have a program right now, for instance, with OCE. We're part of a VIP one project. The internal work is supported by IRAP. External work, say the university work, is still supported by OCE. So we're starting to make those collaborations, and there's a stronger emphasis to collaborate. Any more questions? Thanks.
Thank you, Manfred. Okay, so our next presenter this morning is Linda Cozano. Linda is the Director General, Innovation and Community Development at Federal Economic Development Agency for Southern Ontario, commonly known as FedDev Ontario. The organization works with communities, businesses, not-for-profit organizations, and other levels of government in Southern Ontario to build a strong foundation of investment and partnerships. So welcome, Linda.
Good morning, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here today at OEC Discovery and to share with you the role and the path forward that for FedDev Ontario, or Federal Economic Development Agency for Southern Ontario, which is a real big mouthful. So we much prefer FedDev Ontario. So just to give you a little bit of background to situate us, FedDev Ontario is one of 6 regional economic development agencies across Canada. We were created back in 2009 to address the economic challenges that we had at the time that were facing Southern Ontario. And in terms of a region, you might go, what is Southern Ontario? Well, from our perspective, Southern Ontario spans all the way, I think this is west, it's hard to tell in this building, all the way from the west, Sarnia, Windsor, all the way to the Ontario-Quebec border, to the east, and sort of northern extremes to the Bruce Peninsula. The territory above that is what's covered by FedNor. So we represent those communities. And so in 2015, what's really salient is that all the regional development agencies across Canada, the 6 of us, became part of the portfolio of innovation, science, and economic development. And we work as a collective along with several of our partner departments that are here today, like IRAP, NRC IRAP, EDC, and Sustainable Development Technology Canada. We're there to help businesses grow. Specifically, we support the Honourable Navdeep Bains, the Minister of Innovation, Science and Economic Development, as well as the Honourable Bardish Chatterker, the Minister of Small Business and Tourism, as well as the House Leader, and Kirsty Duncan, the Minister of Science. Our headquarters are in Waterloo, Ontario, and we have offices in Ottawa, as well as Toronto and in Peterborough. We're a team of 230 public servants that are dedicated to supporting the economic prosperity of Southern Ontario. So our mandate is to strengthen Southern Ontario's regional capacity for innovation, entrepreneurship, and collaboration, as well as to promote the development of a strong, inclusive, diversified Southern Ontario. And what we do is we deliver a suite of programs and services across Southern Ontario to improve prosperity, equality, and create high-quality jobs in the region. But I'd like to share with you some of our results to date, just to give you a sense as to how the programs that we deliver are working and how they're helping Southern Ontario businesses. We've invested over $1 billion since 2010 in the Southern Ontario economy. We've helped over 4,500 businesses, organizations, and collaborators to succeed. And we've also, for every dollar we've invested, that's leveraged another $4 within the economy. And we're really proud of some of the impacts we're having. For example, When we compare the companies that we've supported through our programs, Stats Canada has found that that the companies we've supported are outperforming others in the economy. They create 6% more of the jobs that are created, and they have 10% more in revenues than comparable companies. We're also helping to support the creation of STEM jobs at 3 times the pace of other comparable to the economy. And then when it comes to manufacturing jobs with the focused, targeted investments, they're growing at a greater scale, 7 times the rate as what's found in the proportion within the population. So now to move on, sorry, the slide's not moving. Budget 2018 was really exciting for FedDev Ontario. We're going to continue to be positioned to help businesses grow and prosper. So what happened in the budget was regional development agencies were identified as one of the key platforms for supporting businesses on innovation, and that commitment was demonstrated through some new funding that was announced over 6 years. So we are positioning ourselves to invest $920 million to support the continued economic growth in Southern Ontario. Another $116 million was assigned through the budget to help us implement the Innovation and Skills Plan. And there's another $35 million that's been associated for FedDev Ontario to help regionally deliver entrepreneurial support to women. So what I wanted to take a moment here, or a few minutes to do, was to just try to situate the types of investments we can make so that you can take a look at those and see yourselves into our priorities as we go forward, and see what opportunities that may be there, and to open that up if you'd like to have a conversation with FedDev Ontario. So as we're going forward, we're looking to continue to work on strengthening our regional innovation ecosystem, as well as continue to invest in companies and in their scale-up. And there'll be a focus on women entrepreneurship, as well as transforming and diversifying communities. And this is really, as I said, consistent with the types of investments that we've made in the past and that we're looking to continue to do. So let's start in the top corner there, regional innovation ecosystems. So the types of initiative we supported in that area have very much been around entrepreneurship and that innovation ecosystem. So one of the projects or organizations we supported is our host today, OCE, with their Seed Start Pro, Smart Seed Fund, sorry, got it upside down. And they're also making investments in incubators, accelerators, and the resources around. So we're supporting the ICT cluster in the Ottawa region through an investment in Bayview Yards. And then we're also supporting collaborations, and I see my dear friend Mark Nantel right in front of me here. So here we go, Mark, over to give you a little tag. So through Niagara College, we're supporting advanced manufacturing and some collaborations, and that's helping to make the ecosystem work. So Niagara College, along with Mohawk College and Sheridan College and McMaster University, have established what's called the Southern Ontario Network for Advanced Manufacturing Innovation, or SNAMI. So those collaborations and working with industry to date, and Mark's going to tell me it's probably a little bit higher, over 180 jobs. They've done over 150 proof of concepts and prototypes, and have 85 new products that they've commercialized. And those numbers are going to continue to rise as the project continues on. So that's a type of activity that I wanted to give you a lens on the regional innovation ecosystem. Moving over to the quadrant on the right-hand side, in terms of investing in companies directly and their scale-up. So we've helped startups to accelerate their growth and market penetration. We've invested in angel networks to help get the needed access to capital to help them scale up and grow and attract new investors. And also we've helped established businesses expand their footprint in Southern Ontario, adopt new technologies, and to diversify and penetrate new markets. So an example of a company is NobleGen that we supported is NobleGen in Peterborough. They're an advanced ingredient manufacturing company that works primarily with food and beverage companies. In just 4 years, NobleGen has grown to having a staff of a team of about 40 team members, and they have relationships with some of the biggest food and beverage manufacturers in the world. All very impressive in a very short period of time. So in terms of women entrepreneurship, a good example of the types of initiatives to promote women in technology is a project we supported through Communitech. This is an all-female business accelerator and boot camp, which is having a positive impact. Communitech, through this program, has supported 22 companies to date in the accelerator, and another 15 will be participating in 2018. So moving to the bottom corner, community transformation and diversification. We've been active in trying to attract investments to the region, as well as promoting employment opportunities in communities across the region. A project that I'd like to talk to you about is actually, we've been instrumental in influencing the development of the bioprocessing clean technology cluster in Sarnia Lambton region. We provided support through Bioindustrial Innovation Canada, or BIC as it's known. Everybody has an acronym around here. In establishing their ComSci program, which is the Centre for Commercialization and Sustainable Chemistry Innovation. And this is a collaboration also with the Province of Ontario. And together, they help to provide some supports to business, to help with the commercialization, demonstrate their product, and move them along the continuum. But they're also actively involved in attracting businesses to the region, and that's resulted in them attracting investment by Comet and choosing Sarnia for the location, Comet Biorefining and Origin Materials as well. So all necessary ingredients to creating a cluster and diversifying a region. So just moving forward, my colleagues have mentioned the Accelerated Growth Service. So we're going to continue to be involved with our partners in the Accelerated Growth Service. And that's really just a coordinated federal approach to help high potential companies find the resources that they need to help them grow. Make it a little bit more seamless and help you navigate those waters. So FedDev Ontario has on their website this interactive map where you can find all their investments. And I wanted to share this with you today because if you're wondering, I gave you a sprinkling of some of the things that we do and the types of orientation of the things we like to support. But to have a look or to feel inspired, I encourage you to take a look at the map and go, hey, they do kind of that. That might be something like I'm thinking of doing. Maybe they can help me out. So it might give you some inspiration by visiting this. So I encourage you to take a look at our interactive map. And as I said, if you see yourself in that, any of this and my conversation today, please feel free to reach out to FedDev Ontario and or myself, and we can connect you with the right people to have a conversation about your future. You know, it's all about having a dream, an opportunity, and a conversation, and you never know what can come out of that in terms of your future. So I encourage you to visit our website, take a look at that interactive map, and feel inspired. And as well, I encourage you to follow us on social media at the information. So I'd just like to thank you for the opportunity to talk about FedDev Ontario and our path forward, and the ways we're helping our economy and Southern Ontario businesses grow. Thank you. I thought I saw a mic someplace. Good. Sorry. I can actually hear them, but they can't hear you. Where are we actually located? I'm based out of the Waterloo office, and that's our headquarters. We have an office here in Toronto, as well as Peterborough, and out of in Ottawa as well. The SOFI program is supported, and the SOFI was capitalized, but it's run through the East Network and the West Network of Community Futures Development Corporations. I saw Wendy Curtis here somewhere. There she is. She can tell you all about the East and the West SOFI programs, and that provides the middle stage. So we gave the seed funding for that. Anybody else? Thank you very much. Enjoy your conference.
Thank you, Linda. So our last presenter for this morning, but definitely not least, will be Pierre Paffenhoff. Pierre is from Sustainable Development Technology Canada, or SDTC. Pierre is the Technology Scout at SDDC and coaches companies through the funding application process. So I'm going to welcome Pierre up to the stage, and I'm sure there will be an opportunity for some questions at the conclusion. Welcome, Pierre.
Thank you. So good morning, everyone. Thank you, OC, for having me today. It's a great opportunity to introduce you to what SDTC does, what we look for, and how you can get supported by us. So can I have, yeah, thanks. So who we are, we've been funded in 2001, so we've been looking for clean technology demonstration projects for over 17 years now. We're the second largest funder of research development and demonstration of, in the federal government. And we've got active partnerships with provincial funding organizations in Alberta, BC, Ontario, Nova Scotia, and Quebec. So to give you an idea of what SDTC has done to date, we've invested about $989 million in 347 projects. As you can see, we're not looking for a specific clean tech sector. Clean tech is a very global word, and you can put a lot of things in it. And if you want to know if your technology is clean tech, you just need to think if it is going to generate environmental benefits somehow, and environmental benefits you can quantify compared to the status quo of the technology and the market. So now the stage of development of the technologies we're looking for. We're investing anywhere from past proof of concept, so once the applied research and the fundamental research has been done, and you've got a small scale prototype or your lab scale prototype, and you're ready to scale up and do your first field demonstration in uncontrolled environment. That's really what we're looking for, and it has to be before the technology is proven and ready to be commercialized, basically. Now, for those who are familiar with the technology readiness levels, that gives you a better idea of what we're looking for. Is that better now? Oh yeah, is that better now? I'm sorry. Yeah, okay. So I was saying, for those that are familiar with the technology readiness levels, that table is going to give you a better idea of where we get involved. It's anywhere from TRL3, usually a late TRL3, all the way to TRL7, which is the very last step before you're ready to commercialize your technology. Because at that point, it should be pretty much proven. So something to keep in mind is that we're looking for in every project, we're looking for technologies that would reach TRL8 by the end of the project. So I'm talking about project and demonstration projects, and actually that is what it looks like in a nutshell. So SDTC funds on average about a third of the eligible cost of a project, and our criteria for these investments are a pre-commercial technology that is backed by a consortium of industry partners, industry and universities and research and development partners, and the technology needs to be innovative, and you need to have a strong marketing and business plan to commercialize the technology eventually. And obviously, we need to see quantifiable environmental benefits as a result of the use of that technology. The 2/3 of the project that we are not covering needs to be addressed or funded by the lead applicant, which in most cases is going to be an SME, and the consortium, the industry partners, you're going to bring around the table. And these partners, the most important of them all, actually, one we require in most projects, is the customer, your end user, someone who is going to represent your target market or markets if you have several, and is going to be willing to risk some resources or funds in some cases to help you prove that the technology works out and eventually commercialize it. And in most cases, they're going to become your first client. Other partners we can accept are suppliers of any kind, OEM, universities to help you with the R&D in a lot of projects, and any distribution partners that are going to help you commercialize the technology eventually. Now, I've been talking about eligible costs. That's the list. You can find it on the website as well. But to sum it up, it's everything you need to demonstrate that your technology works. So the feedstock, the manpower, some equipment, some pieces of equipment, also feasibility studies, and IP. We're going to help you get the IP too, so if you need it. For the equipment, it's a particular case. We are going to fund 100% of the equipment that is going to be obsolete by the end of the project, or totally wore off. For everything else that's going to have a life after the project is going to be the depreciation of that piece of equipment over the length of the project. The non-eligible costs are basically everything else. The most important ones to keep in mind are land and building that are not eligible, but also marketing and sales, which also are a big non-eligible cost. Everything related to the commercialization of the technology. So now, who can apply? Well, most of our companies, as I said earlier, are SMEs, but we also accept applications from non-for-profit organizations, partnerships, limited partnerships, and business trusts. Now, how you can apply and what our process looks like. So it's a gated process. The phase one, which is the intake, is where we start the conversation. We encourage every potential applicant to call us so we can evaluate basic fit of the project and technology. If we think there is one, then we're going to ask you to fill out a form online, which is your intake, which is the basic application. And that might lead to a video conference session where we gather 5 SDTC staff and we listen to more details about your technology and your project and determine whether you should be invited to the full due diligence, which is phase 2. Full due diligence is a business plan, which we call a detailed proposal, where you're going to detail everything about your project, company, technology, project, detailed budget, environmental benefits calculation. So that's a pretty big document. And then we're going to set up a due diligence visit. So we're going to come to your facilities, we're going to meet you, we're going to meet your partners, and we're going to talk about some key points of your detailed proposal. And based on that, the whole analysis, if we think you're ready to go to the next stage, we're going to present you to our investment committee, which is now called the project review committee, same thing, who is going to eventually recommend or not the project for funding. And the ones that are recommended by the project review committee, are going to be presented to the board for final approval. Once that's done, you can start the contracting phase, which is basically all the legal stuff you need to solve to sign the funding agreement with us. And then you can start your project. It's milestone based, so we disperse the funds. We advance the first at the beginning of every milestone, and at the end of every milestone you produce a report, and based on that report and the success of your milestone, you're going to get the advancement for the next one all the way until the end of the project, where we ask you to produce a full report. So that's our evaluation process. Something that is usually appreciated by every people we've been working with is that you get an SDTC resource allocated to your project all the way through these steps. So in phase 1, for example, it's going to be me. I'm going to bring you from the intake call basically to all the way to the video conference session. Then in phase 2, if you're successful, you're going to be assigned to a screening and evaluation manager who are our subject matter experts. And eventually in phase 3, you're going to be handled by your project manager who's going to help you through all the project aspects, but also the reporting and everything related to that phase. So now if you're considering applying to SDTC, these are the main points you need to think about. Are you past the proof of concept? So with your innovation, is that something that is pre-commercial? So by pre-commercial, we mean never proven anywhere in the world in any live situation. So so it means if it's a technology that has been proven in Europe, for example, but it's not certified for North America, usually it's not going to be for us because there's really very little technology risk associated with that certification. That's more a couple of tests to be done or optimization of something that already exists. You need to think about your consortium. Have you talked to anyone from your target market, and is there any people interested at all by your technology, and would they come on board if you are doing a project? So, and finally, are you planning to commercialize your technology, and is it going to generate environmental benefits, quantifiable environmental benefits? That's a very important aspect. We want to be able to estimate these environmental benefits based on your forecast sales. Obviously, once the project will be done. And that's a little summary of what or how to contact us. So that's our phone number. You should talk to someone who's going to direct you to our application and intake coordinator for the first screening part of the process. But actually, it's going to be quicker if you contact me directly or Jennifer, who's our application and intake coordinator. Sorry. And obviously, you're welcome to come to see me at the end of the presentation, and we can talk about your project and technology. Thank you. Get away. All right.
If a small organization already has an initiative, do you accept to be onboarded partway through the process, or you must be there prior?
So that's there's several ways to answer that. The short answer is we could get on board if the overall project is going to be long enough, and you're going to still have some demonstration to do after the 6 months. It usually takes us to evaluate a project. So I didn't mention it in the presentation, but the full application process from the online form all the way to the board approval is about 6 months. So if you still have a project at the end of these 6 months, then yes.
Organization has a new initiative, a new product, like that organization has a commercial product. Does that disqualify the organization?
If it's a different technology, something that has not been commercialized by the company, then it doesn't matter. We're going to look at it like it was if you were a startup or another organization.
So you have a rolling intake process.
Yes.
But how many projects do you fund per year on average? And what is the level?
So, good question. We fund about 20 to 30 projects a year, and our average investment is between $2 to $3 million per project. So, as I said on the slide, it's about a third of the total project cost. So, we're talking about projects from anything from $6 to $10 million. But we can go higher and we can go lower as well. The minimum project size is $1 million. There's no real maximum, but we try to keep our contribution under $10 million.
And what would you say the distribution is across Canada?
We have a lot of projects in Ontario. BC, Alberta, and Quebec are the next, the ones behind it, I think. But I don't have the exact numbers in mind, so I don't want to say anything wrong. But I know Ontario and BC are the two largest.
Final questions.
Yeah.
So your organization has a lot of relationships with potential partners, I would say. So let's just say, for example, a company comes to you for a proposal, will you help them make some of those required connections, or would they contact you?
If it's a potential partner with which we have a good relationship, then yes, we happily make an introduction. Usually, companies that are ready to come to us already have at least started discussions with some potential partners, but we're very, very happy to talk to them early in the process, to the partners early in the process, to just explain what we expect from them and what would be required from them at the end if the project goes through. We can't fund universities, however, you can definitely have an SME leading the project and having a university working hand in hand with them without any problem. Like, that actually happened in a couple of cases. So. Is that it? Well, thank you very much.
Presentation this morning. Our next presenter is Jasmine Gainey-Hobbs. Jasmine is the Director, Technology Finance at the Business Development Bank of Canada, otherwise known as BDC. Jasmine works extensively with Canadian entrepreneurs to provide both financial and consulting solutions. And she also serves as a champion for BDC for the technology industry and for female entrepreneurs. So please join us in welcoming Jasmine.
Thank you very much for that introduction, and good morning, everyone. I'm here today to hopefully give you some overview and insight on BDC and how we can help Canadian entrepreneurs. And it's funny because in my travels, and I've been at BDC over 14 years, it surprises me that entrepreneurs don't know exactly who we are, why we exist, and what we do. But for sure, if you're a Canadian entrepreneur, you definitely should be familiar with BDC and what our mandate and services are. So our branding states that we're the only bank devoted exclusively to entrepreneurs, and that's absolutely true. So we don't do any personal service. We only do commercial, corporate financing, and which includes both debt and equity financing. Our raison d'etre, we're in business to help entrepreneurs succeed. That is our mandate. We were created over 70 years ago with the sole intent of helping to propel Canadian entrepreneurs towards greater success by offering them a variety of services and financing, which includes debt financing, equity financing, mezzanine financing, and advisory services of all sorts to help with expansion. We work with over 42,000 entrepreneurs across Canada through over 110 business centers, and BDC has over 2,100 employees across the country, nationally, coast to coast. Okay. We work with entrepreneurs in all industries, from retail to manufacturing to financial services of all sorts. My specialty is technology and innovation companies, hence why I'm here today, and women entrepreneurs. And if we look ahead and see what are some of the key priority industries for BDC while we work across the board, it's certainly the technology and innovation and women entrepreneurs is something we have a strong corporate focus on at the moment. Okay. Our clients are really our success, and our clients, when we take a look at what is the extent of the impact that we have on the Canadian economy, it's quite far-reaching. Through the financing and the services that we offer, our clients employ over 700,000 Canadians that generate over $235 billion in revenue and account for 18% of the exports. So those are no small numbers, as you can see, and our impact in the Canadian economy is very widely felt. Okay. And we're definitely the bank that gets is really there to support entrepreneurs throughout the economy, and especially during economic downturns. We're counter-cyclical to the economy that way, and so when economic markets are doing well and liquidity is flowing, BDC is kind of being normal. However, when we have recessions and economic downturns and entrepreneurs are in trouble and they don't have as much liquidity and as much capital, that's when we really ramp up our activity to the highest levels. As you can see from the graph here, in 2008, due to the US economy and the economic downturn that happened, we were extremely active. And not only did we put out more capital, we also gave economic sanctions and relief to entrepreneurs, such as delaying their payments for a year or two to help them get through the downtime. And the result of that was that the entrepreneurs that we work with, they by far recovered more than we expected them to. So we increased our loan loss provisions during that time, and we were pleasantly surprised that when they got the helping hand that they needed, those businesses, many of them did not go under as expected. They were able to sustain themselves with some help. This was true for both this downturn, for the SARS epidemic, and other things that have happened that have negatively influenced entrepreneurs. Okay. BDC is the first certified B Corp bank, so we take social responsibility very, very seriously. We have a group that solely supports B Corp certified businesses of all kinds. And as a financial institution, this is very, very rare to have this kind of certification. But social investing, social impact is something that is extremely important to us, as I know it is to many of the companies here today. Okay. So we exist solely for small and medium-sized businesses in Canada. And small and medium-sized businesses in Canada account for over 99% of Canadian companies. As you can see here, 97% of Canadian companies employ between 1 and 99 employees. And it's only 1% of companies that employ more than 100 employees. And large companies account for 0.3% of Canadian companies. So the reach that we have in reaching the majority of entrepreneurs in Canada is fairly significant. This is no small market and certainly in need of the support that we provide. Okay. Behind every small business, of course, is an entrepreneurial dream. And small and medium-sized businesses play an extremely important role. As I've mentioned here, they employ the majority of Canadians. Private sector employment accounts for over 90%. Our GDP is over 50%. And so you see why BDC is a vital institution here to support entrepreneurs. What we do, so it's financing, it's money, and it's a capital of both equity and debt, and it's advisory services. On the equity side of our business, BDC is actually the largest venture capital investor in the country. And the financing that we offer can be used for almost any legitimate business purpose. And that's one of our major differentiators. Oftentimes, financing that's offered in the commercial world is tied to hard assets. That's property, plant, equipment. We are there to support businesses that may not necessarily have property, plant, and equipment, or may have it pledged to another lender. And that's totally fine. In technology and innovation financing, we rarely have assets as security. It's almost never. And in other types of businesses, manufacturers and whatnot, those assets are typically pledged to the chartered bank. And we are willing to come in subordinate and second place to the bank for working capital, for R&D, for marketing, to help people during the first year of business, for hiring people, going international. So it's what we can finance is very extensive. Okay. And in this way, we are definitely different. BDC has over 600 people across the country, account managers that work with business. We're a patient and flexible lender, and we will come in second position. We will often do terms and conditions that are far more advantageous to entrepreneurs and that you customize and that you will not see at typical financial institutions. And that could be anything from delaying principal payments for a year or longer, doing balloon payments, repayment schedules that are completely tailored to a company's cash flow and so on and so forth. Okay. BDC also focuses on Aboriginal banking. We have an Aboriginal banking unit that caters specifically to the needs of Aboriginal entrepreneurs. We've got an Aboriginal Business Development Fund and growth capital for Aboriginal businesses, and I have counterparts that specialize in this. So if anybody's interested in working through the Aboriginal Business Unit, definitely it's something that we have available, and we reach out to that market and have been for many, many years. BDC also offers indirect or specialized financing for financial intermediaries. So we do fund other financial companies and we do this with the intent of putting capital into the markets so that they may further put capital out there, and as such, there is more liquidity in the market in general. So we have many private and public sector partnerships. Okay. Our growth and transition capital team specializes in a number of things. And what this group does, and especially for tech companies, we're very, very popular, not specifically only for tech, but especially for tech, given the nature of the businesses and capital structuring. So if you're a company, you do not want to dilute further, you have traction, and you are looking for additional capital, and you don't want to take equity for whatever reason. You don't want to lose control, you don't want to lose a piece of the pie, you don't want to dilute further. But you need to grow further, or you need to make an acquisition, and you don't have hard assets as security. This is a great product for your company. And we have many technology companies that start out with small financings from us and then end up with millions and millions of dollars of financing through our growth and transition capital group. And we are the only financial institution in Canada that can take a company from a $25,000 startup loan to $25 million plus in funding and everything in between. So from the time that a company is generating revenue to the time that they exit, we can provide financial solutions. We cannot finance pre-revenue companies. So if a company comes through our door and says, we are in R&D and we will not be out to market for another 12 to 18 months, we could not extend financing as yet. However, once you get to market, you're commercialized, and you're on your way and you need capital for growth and sales have begun, that is a perfect time to start engaging with BDC, having those conversations. You can start engaging beforehand, but that's likely the time when we'll start to, you'll start to see BDC coming in with first rounds of financing. Under our venture capital group, we provide both direct investing to Canadian companies, so we will put investments directly into companies, and we will also provide other venture capital dollars into the ecosystem through funding other venture capital funds, funding incubators, and so on and so forth. This, our venture capital division accounts for $1 billion that goes out into the Canadian economy. And as far as direct companies, we have 700 investee companies and work as a partner with many, many of the well-known pre-approved venture capital funds across Canada. Okay. BDC also offers advisory services, as noted, And our advisory services group are consulting services that help entrepreneurs go to the next level in many different areas. So that could be you're a Canadian entrepreneur and you're looking to undertake international expansion. You need to go to the US or you need to get into international markets. You can come see us for those sorts of things. Also, other types of services that we offer are significant sales, marketing, branding, human resource initiatives. And these are paid consulting services, but what we do is we certainly offer them cheaper than market, and we have a roster of consultants that we engage with on a contractual basis for our clients and their specific needs. That these are consultants that work in industry on an ongoing basis who we will call at times of taking on a mandate for a client. Okay. And these consulting services really are there to help entrepreneurs manage their business. We call it smart capital. So instead of just providing money, we want to be able to provide expertise to help Canadian businesses succeed, go global, increase their revenues, improve productivity, and go to the next level. Okay. International expansion is a huge area for us. We fully believe that Canadian companies cannot succeed globally and cannot succeed to their fullest potential without going global. We are obviously a small country with a small population, and in order to drive sales and become world-class companies, we need to do business with the rest of the world. So we will help to select markets and discover the potential of companies to go global and help companies to develop strategies on how to most effectively do that. Okay. We also work with high-impact firms, and high-impact firms are firms that really showcase and highlight Canada's competitiveness. They're high-growth companies. They have the size, the growth mindset, and we will offer them support services to keep making sure that they succeed and drive ahead. Okay. Okay. BDC, as I mentioned, also has a very big focus on women entrepreneurs. We have committed over $180 million over the next few years to support women-owned businesses, and that is both through our Women in Tech Venture Capital Fund. So if you're a women-owned technology company, there is a fund specifically to invest in your company that's run by my colleague, Michelle Scarborough. And we're also looking to ramp up our debt side for women entrepreneurs as well. Another key area of focus for us, especially in Western Canada, is the oil and gas sector. And we've put over $1 billion to support SMEs impacted by lower oil prices and to help them diversify and forge ahead. BDC, some of our other activities is the National Small Business Week. We've been the proponents of Small Business Week for many, many years to highlight and to support Canadian entrepreneurs, and we offer various awards and programs around Small Business Week. So look out for us. That's typically in the fall, around October every year. And you can visit us online at bdc.ca. We have a section called Business Tools, which is very, very helpful to up-and-coming entrepreneurs. Things like downloadable business plan, templates, and forecasts. So please have a look, and I'm sure you'll get lots of great information from there. So thank you very much, and certainly happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Jasmine, for your presentation. For those of you just joining us, I'd like to welcome you to the Innovation Partners Theatre. My name is Sharon Jobity. I'm Vice President of Human Resources with the Ontario Centres of Excellence. And this morning we have the pleasure of introducing to you a series of presentations from presenters on organizations that either work with, are a department or an agency of the provincial or federal government or receive funding from the government. And together they help innovators and entrepreneurs with a variety of programs and opportunities to help them develop their research and their business. So next, this morning, I have the pleasure of introducing to you Marc Fortin. Marc is the Vice President of Research Partnerships for the Natural Sciences and Engineering Research Council, or otherwise known as NSERC. Mark is responsible for a range of programs designed to stimulate research partnerships, innovation, and training of innovation leaders. So Mark, welcome.
Good morning, everyone. Busy morning, lots of people. This is a great event. Thank you for being here. So NSERC, we know NSERC, we don't know NSERC. Let me talk to you a little bit about NSERC, and then we'll move into the partnership programs we offer to connect knowledge generators to knowledge users, aka companies or public good organizations. Let me see. Okay, here we go. NSERC, Natural Sciences and Engineering Research Council. It is the largest granting council in sciences and engineering. $1.2 billion a year that are spent on supporting research activities. 33,000 students are supported by NSERC, 11,000 professors. We reach to most professors across the country. Most professors both at the university level and at the college level as well. The college program is not quite as well known, but it has a significant impact, especially with small, medium enterprises. Every year we work with something like 3,600 companies, connecting the knowledge generated in universities to those knowledge users in small, medium, and large enterprises. These companies in turn, in addition to the funding we provide, invest themselves over $200 million every year. The next slide is a slide that I shouldn't present anywhere else but in Ontario, because it shows that roughly half of the $1.2 billion we invest in research is actually invested in Ontario. So it's great news for Ontario, it's bad news for the rest of Canada. We invest in research. Budget 2018 has just increased the level of funding NSERC has to provide to researchers. I'm not going to go through all that slide, but it's a significant increase. If I quote the minister, it is a historic investment in science, research, and development that has been made in the last budget. An example of the type of programming we have for connecting knowledge generators with knowledge users, or academics, researchers with companies, is the ENGAGE program. ENGAGE, we're celebrating this year the 10,000th ENGAGE grant being provided. So we have provided grants 10,000 times for bringing a company to work with a university partner on an idea. They are small grants, very fast cycle, 4 to 6 weeks. They're managed regionally, so you can speak to the people, you can be connected to the people who manage those grants. Interesting statistics that we dug out recently is the fact that for every 4 ENGAGE grants we provide, one company will continue then to invest in research and development beyond that small ENGAGE grant. Most of the companies we've worked with were new to NSERC, and many of the professors are also new to companies. So we're establishing new relationships. There's no illusion that just with an ENGAGE grant we're going to solve an entire problem, but it is a first step, a first connection between these researchers and companies looking for solving problems. Now, Budget 2018, you may have noticed, said something like the federal government will reduce by 2/3, up to 2/3, the number of programs that are business-facing innovation programs. What the government has heard is that there are just way too many programs. Small businesses, small enterprises do not know what door to knock on to be able to connect with grants, with support that is being provided. So government has heard the message, the federal government has heard the message, and has directed various organizations to reduce the number of programs they offer to small businesses by 2/3. This is not yet done. The direction just came out in budget 2018. And for NSERC, that means that engaged grants that I just mentioned, I just said we have just celebrated giving out 10,000 of those engaged grants. Those engaged grants will be consolidated with industrial research shares, Connect grants. Connect grants are very, very fast turnaround, small amounts of money to bring people together to talk. It's just know each other, get to know each other. It's meeting money, if I can put it that way, for people to get together. And typically what happens is there's a small Connect grant, people get together, that leads to an Engage grant. Again, those small, fast cycle grants to start working, start connecting businesses with researchers on an actual research project that can then evolve, if you go down the list, to collaborative research and development grants, the bottom one on that list there, which are a little more substantial, more significant investment from NSERC. We typically match company contributions 2-to-1. That can eventually lead to industrial research shares, which are, again, more substantial. Now, Budget 2018 said those 6 programs are going to be consolidated, again, in the spirit of making the landscape for small businesses a little simpler. We are in the process of working on this. I have staff in the room. Some of them are working day and night on this thing, on the consolidation. I'll come back to the consolidation in a few seconds. The spirit of the consolidation is real simple. We're going to modernize, we're going to simplify, and we're going to improve those programs. Not that they were bad, because they've received a fair amount of uptake. We've doubled, the little graph on the upper left, we've doubled the number of companies we work with over the last several years. Uptake for those programs has continued to increase to the point where it's becoming a problem in a sense of budgets available, but that's a good problem to have. So the uptake has increased, the programs are working well, but the government wants to reduce the complexity of the landscape. Just yesterday I was with Sheldon Levy, some of you may know, formerly Ryerson, DMZ, and Deputy Minister, and so on and so forth. I think he's had quite a few incarnations over the years. Sheldon, I'll quote him, so he'll bear the responsibility for that statement. Sheldon was saying, don't wait for governments to create programs for you. You need to create those programs. So the message I want to send this morning is, yes, we are using this direction from government to consolidate and simplify and modernize. We're using that opportunity to actually rewrite the programs, build on the foundation that we've established. As I said, Engage grants and CRD grants and the number of companies that we work with has almost doubled. So these are good foundations. How do we make the programs more agile, more flexible? How do we make those programs answer to your needs? Like Sheldon said, don't wait for governments to create a program. Come and work with us as we are creating them. So it's an open invitation to work with us to build essentially the best research partnership program there is. We're the largest investor in connecting researchers with companies. The environment has evolved over the last 10, 20 years, over the time that the programs have been in existence. We've seen major investments in different parts of the ecosystem, either from provincial governments or federal government. Today, what is the need that we need to answer? What is the gap that we need to answer in the funding that we provide? And again, the funding we provide, fundamentally, it is to connect a knowledge generator, typically a university or a college, with a knowledge user, that is a company, or in some cases it can be a public good organizations. We're looking at increasing flexibility, increasing agility, building on those foundations, and accelerating the way we do business. I've given the team the task to reduce our time to decision by 50%. They're working hard at that. But what are the parameters in the program that you think are the most important? I'm going to stop here and be happy to answer any and all questions.
I'm an angel investor in Ottawa, entering small companies. Can you tell us a little bit more about the entry criteria you would expect? Maybe pre-commercial, early commercial, rules of thumb?
Right. I don't know if we can work with the TRL levels. So typically, as I said, we're connecting researchers with small, medium enterprises. Researchers will operate with a typical research grants from NSERC will operate, TRL 1 to 4. We come in a little later with the partnership programs. It's going to be 3, 4, all the way up to 7. We don't support a whole lot of commercialization. Other players can do that. I mean, the federal government has just invested $1 billion in the super clusters, which are more business oriented and more focused on, I would say, TRL 6 and up. So we'll play in a space where there is still research to be done. There are still issues to be resolved in terms of technology or in terms of knowledge. So we provide funding for the small company to work, or the large company to work with a researcher to address those questions. So TRL scales, I mean, different people have different understandings of it, but 4 to 8 kind of space. Oh, please. My goal is to have a program early fall. Now, government sometimes has obscure ways. There's something called Treasury Board. You've heard of them. But we're aiming at having the programs in place, a 90% solution in the fall. So we'll be happy to work with partners over the summer to build, improve, adjust the program. Program, I say singular, because apparently it's only going to be one if you read the budget. Please.
Just a follow-up question on that. For those that have applied for NSERC engaged grants recently, what does that mean?
So all is good. The programs continue to operate for the moment as they are. So it's business as usual. Nothing has changed. Well, I say nothing has changed. I've been Vice President of Research Partnerships since last October. We had already started making some changes, modest, I'd say, changes. For example, we're now recognizing international and foreign companies as partners in some of the partnerships. So that broadens the range of companies Canadian researchers can work with and the kind of partnerships that you can build. We've also simplified the management of intellectual property as well to accelerate the grant administration. We've been able to cut up to 3 months in the decision cycle by taking NSERC essentially out of the equation when it comes to intellectual property. We do not own, just to make this clear, we do not own intellectual property. We're not interested in owning intellectual property. Institutions, academic institutions, and companies can develop their own agreements. It's hands-off for us. So that way we can, again, accelerate adjudication of those applications.
I'm from Chinese University. My question is, do you have any connection with the Chinese NSFC?
Shishi. So one of the elements, I'm going to answer 2 ways. We do have connections and agreements and MOUs with several foreign countries. One thing we need to be able to catalyze going forward is easier connections between, as we are redesigning the programs over the course of the next 6 months. is to make it easier for Canadian researchers and companies to connect with knowledge outside of the country, so foreign partners. Canada has 0.5% of the population of the planet. We produce 5%, 4% of the research publications on the planet. 95% of the good ideas are somewhere else. They're not in Canada. So we need to help leverage that knowledge that exists elsewhere to benefit Canada, because we're using Canadian taxpayers' money. So as we are redesigning the program, we have to look at how we can support international collaborations. Government has already indicated its intent to do that. If you look at Budget 2018, there's an item called CRCC, Canadian Research Coordination Committee, and it talks specifically about supporting international collaborations. So more to come over the next 6 months on this topic. So starting now, we are not looking at IP agreements. I say starting now, I think it was April 1st. We have Andy Sinclair here, the director of the Ontario NSERC office. Andy has a booth at number 516, if I recall. And we have staff there, and Andy is always happy to work with Ontario partners, wherever they are across Ontario. To go back to your question, so NSERC will no longer review and assess the IP agreements. We strongly suggest that there is one. It is to the benefit of both the academic institution and the small company, and the companies and the partners. But we will no longer review them, which allows us to send the money earlier instead of waiting anywhere between 0 and 6 months for an IP agreement to be put in place. That information is on the NSERC website. One small step. But more steps to come, because this redesign of the programs is going to be a fairly significant exercise. Okay, thank you very much for that question. That is a very good question. I want to go back to the discussion with Sheldon Levy yesterday. We have to think, we have to be bold, we have to be innovative. Going forward, it's a little less about what the program used to look like, to what is it that will best equip us being partners in the private sector or in the public sector, best equip those partners to access, to leverage the knowledge that exists in universities. We fund 11,000 professors every year. There's a tremendous wealth of knowledge to help propel companies. So what we have right now is an invitation to think beyond what we've done so far, and think bold, and think creative, imaginative, and think about what is it that we need in 2018, not 2010. The Engage program has existed since 2009, almost 10 years. It's done fantastic things. What do we need now? So I don't have an answer to your question, because frankly, if we start rethinking and imagining what it is we need to take us to yet another level, Engage has brought 10,000 connections, has established 10,000 connections between researchers and industry. How do we take this yet to a different level? It's an invitation to imagine and be creative. If we don't do it, we're all losing.
Just as a small side comment, we're looking for input. We'll formally be looking for input at some point. Feel free to give concepts and ideas and things that would be nice to me. I will funnel it back to the working group.
Marc Martel, Niagara College. I'm sorry, in this part of how is this directive of reducing the number of programs by 2/3 impacting the college program?
The college programs. Thank you for raising this, actually, because I haven't spoken enough about the college programs. There are several programs that again, bring companies to work with colleges and institutes and polytechniques. They do fabulous work. They have something called technology access centers that they're pretty much their only purpose is to work with small, medium enterprises. We fund equipment in colleges, we fund research projects, we fund the ability of companies to work with colleges. The college program is a fabulous success story. The funding for the college programs are increasing by 54% over the next 2 years, 20 more million this year, 30 more million ongoing the year after. So it's a really good news story. We'll be able to increase capacity in the colleges and institutes and polytechniques. We will look at simplifying the college program over the course of the next year. Right now, our priority is to get the funding that we receive in budget 2018 out the door, get it to work, get that money to work. As we are working on the university program, we'll learn some lessons and apply that to the college program a little later. I think we also need to simplify, to be honest with you. It's been in existence for 10 years. I think we can make our lives simpler, but the first thing we're going to do with the college program is get the money out the door. Thank you very much, and enjoy the Discovery Conference.
Thank you, Mark, for that presentation this morning. So our next presenter here this morning is Amishka Bayada. Amishka is an account manager for SME Solutions at Export Development Canada, also known as EDC. EDC is an export credit agency for Canada. Their role is to support Canada export trade by assisting Canadian companies to respond to international business opportunities. So please welcome Amishka.
Good morning. Thank you for the introduction. I'm Amishka Bayada. I'm an account manager in the GTA region. So I work with small to medium enterprises in and around the GTA region. And I'm here to talk to you about who EDC is and what we do and how we can help your businesses when they're looking at growing internationally. So EDC is part of an ecosystem of other government agencies that work with companies who export. Along with the Trade Commissioner Service, the Business Development Bank of Canada, and the Canadian Commercial Corporation, we all work in different ways to support Canadian companies. We each have our own role, and we also work very closely together to support Canadian companies depending on what their needs are. EDC in particular provides trade finance and risk mitigation strategies for companies when they're starting to navigate into the dangerous waters of international trade. We work very closely with the public sector and the private sector in Canada to support these companies. EDC has facilitated over $104 billion in business, contributing to over $66.8 million to our GDP, and supported over 530,000 jobs across Canada. So as you can see, we have a huge reach in the Canadian economy to support what we do. So we are a Crown Corporation, which means we are government mandated to support Canadian companies. However, we are self-funded. We make our own money. We have offices across Canada, so depending on where your business is, we have people who are there to support you. We also have offices across the world who are in strategic markets that are there to help Canadian companies that are looking at expanding into these markets. So if you're interested in expanding into India or into Mexico or Chile or Australia, we work very closely with the Canadian embassies and consulates around the world with the Trade Commissioner Service to support Canadian companies internationally. So we are here to help. In addition to the market knowledge that we provide, our solutions are catered specifically to the needs that Canadians have. That's our shiny office in Ottawa, if you can see. We help all companies of all sizes. So people tend to think that we just work with large, the Bombardiers of the world, but that's not true. We work with all companies. Whether you are a startup or you're a large multinational organization, we help you. It doesn't matter whether you are a manufacturer or a service provider, we work with any type of company. So as long as you are a Canadian legal company and you are selling your product or your service to anyone outside of Canada, we are here to help. Our solutions have been specifically designed to help overcome the hurdles that we see a lot of Canadian companies encounter. We try to reduce the risk when doing international business. We know as Canadians, we're very conservative. The idea of going into foreign markets can be very scary. So we try to help relieve those risks that many will encounter and really expand your global business. We know, and we've seen research, that Canadian companies who export do better than those who don't, from not only a productivity standpoint, from an innovation standpoint, from a sales standpoint, which we know at the end of the day is what your company wants to achieve. Doing business just in Canada will not get you the results that you need to see. So we're here to try to encourage Canadian companies to take that leap of faith to expand not only into the USA, but internationally. So our solutions fall into a number of different buckets. The first being insurance, credit insurance. So when you're engaged in international trade and your customer is asking you for payment terms, which is very common, where your customer says, give me time, give me 30 days, give me 60 days to pay you, there's a risk in engaging in that type of business. So we offer credit insurance solutions to cater to what your specific needs are. So whether you have one shipment or one contract that you're engaged in, our platform of various insurance solutions can be catered to what your specific needs are. In addition to that, we also provide various financial guarantees, so helping Canadian companies access financing through their financial institutions. We know the Canadian banks can be very conservative and they're very reluctant to lend money, so we try to come in and encourage the banks to take on more risk to lend companies funds so that they can engage in more international business. There's also a need for bonding requirements when you're doing international business as well, and we come in and work with your financial institution to help you with those needs as well. We also engage in direct financing. It's not our preferred solution, but we do help where we lend directly. And we also help international buyers with financing as well to encourage them to buy Canadian product. Because at the end of the day, everything that we do is to encourage the sale of Canadian goods or services to companies internationally. The other piece that we do is market intelligence, helping Canadian companies navigate which region they want to expand into, whether it's sector-specific industries. So if you belong to a specific sector, we have sector experts that can help guide specific knowledge for your industry, provide you with value information that is all complementary, in addition to economic reports, country reports, commodity trackers. We have a fantastic news publication that you can sign up for on our website to keep you up to date with all the various articles that are happening, up-to-date information on NAFTA and the free trade agreement with the European Union, all the information to keep you up to date with what's happening internationally. When you're a company sitting here in Toronto, the idea of understanding the political and the social and the economic aspects in a country internationally is very hard to do. So leverage EDC to help you bridge those gaps in your knowledge, help you make the right decisions for your business when you are looking at taking on that new inquiry from a company internationally. And another large thing that we do is also find Canadian companies that can match with international companies that are looking to buy products. So it's a huge matchmaking effort in partnership with the Canadian government. We help Canadian companies sell their product to international buyers by providing opportunities for them to meet. As a small company sitting in Toronto or Mississauga or Brampton or Vaughan, getting an opportunity to sit in front of a large international buyer is an opportunity of a lifetime. So we offer these types of services as well. So there's a lot of things that EDC can do. It can be very overwhelming in terms of giving you too much information, but I will leave one thing with you. If your company is thinking about exporting, or you are exporting, and a lot of companies don't realize the USA is included in that, so anything outside of Canada is deemed an export, you should be talking to EDC, either myself or one of my colleagues around the country. We are here to support you and help you navigate how your business can take on these new challenges and grow your business. Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Yes.
Can you share some lesson learned for early commercial companies that have had maybe a BDC relationship, while transitioning, or still have a BDC relationship, transitioning, trying to get into commercial, or maybe do some back and forth, BDC for this, BDC for that?
I would say that you can work with both of us. So BDC, the Business Development Bank of Canada, is a sister corporation to us. So they help small businesses access financing when their financial partner is not able to, and they have a number of different financing solutions that companies can take advantage of. I work very closely, we all work very closely with BDC, working with our clients in tandem. We take a foreign focus, they take a domestic focus. I always encourage companies to come to us early. Having the information available to you to understand how you can leverage our solutions when you're ready is key. So you may not be ready for us today, you may not be ready for us tomorrow, but having the information, knowing who you can speak to is half the battle. So I always encourage and welcome speaking with companies to figure out what their needs are. So maybe credit insurance isn't your need, but I can make an introduction to another government agency to you, or I can introduce you to a local lawyer or an accounting firm. So my role is more than just the role that EDC does, but it's putting you into the network that can tap into depending on what your specific needs are. As I said, I'm an account manager, so my role is to come out, meet with your company, get to know your business, understand what your needs are, and then make the appropriate recommendations and work with you to decide what those are. No, we just focus on credit insurance. So you're selling your product and you're waiting to get paid from your client, and the concern is, why am I going to get paid, right? If you've shipped it, you're waiting to get paid, or you're manufacturing a product and you're worried about your contract getting canceled after you've incurred costs, that is the type of insurance that we do. I'll be here, so if anybody has any more questions or you'd like my card, don't hesitate to come out. I'd love to speak to you. Thank you.